A new and exciting book is about to hit bookstores everywhere. Readers of all ages cannot wait to get their hands on the book called Koko and Kush for the Department of Information and Public Relations. I am your JS host, Berta McKelly Adams, and I will now take you to an interview with Director of the Department of Culture, Mrs. Luz Hart-Smith, Secretary General of the BVI's National Commission for UNESCO, Dr. Alison Flex Archer, and of course, local author of the book Koko and Kush, Dr. Patricia Turnbull. Ladies, welcome.
Thank you.
Right. Without revealing too much, Dr. Turnbull, tell us more about this book.
Well, this is what I call a story poem, or some people call it a poem story, because it's a story written in the form of a poem with illustration. It's called Koko and Kush, about two plants. I tell the story from the perspective of the plants themselves.
Interesting.
And Koko is a young coconut palm, and his friend, a wiser yam on a vine on the ground. Two unlikely friends, but it is a story that I tell to help children appreciate the beauty and the strength in difference or in diversity, while they share a common environment. In this case, the environment being a place called Garden Bay, which I'm sure Caribbean people, especially Virgin Islands people, will recognize. We're island archipelago places, and the sea is always there. And so this story is located in an area close by the sea. The friendship between these two characters, these two plant characters, teaching us to learn from nature the value of friendship, community, history, and the environment. All of these being our teacher as we recover from threat, the pressures that we undergo in life. Children are never too young to learn those lessons, I believe.
Certainly. Doctor, give us a story, how you were inspired to write the book.
The book, I must admit, is a gift. It's a seed gift from my grandchildren. I've been reading to my grandchildren for quite a long time and teaching not so very young children, but particularly young adolescents. I've been teaching them literature for a long time. So I stepped aside from my usual adult academic type of writing, my poetry, to do this for the children. I really wanted to do something for the children when I started this 3 years ago. And we take nature walks above the bays, in the bays, and we observe what's happening to the land and the coastlands around us. And my son came home one day after, I think he must have been around my grandson, around 7, and he had learned about living and non-living things in school. And he came and he looked at the plants around us in the yard and in the immediate environments, and he asked, "But Grandma, is a plant a living thing?" He didn't think it was. Couldn't see it, couldn't speak according to what he understood by living. And from there we took off as to the value, not just of trees, because we didn't want to talk about trees we wanted to talk about a variety of plants, the low-lying ones, the tall ones, the flowering ones, the fruit ones, the shrubs, even the things he called weeds, that he thought the vine of the yam was a weed and he wanted me to destroy it. I'm no ecologist, but I appreciate the value of nature as a teacher. I appreciate the blessing of the earth, and so I took that little seed and ran with it into this composition, crafted it into a poem, and decided to make the poem into a story. I took it to my illustrator, Mr. Ruben Vanderpool, whom I gladly mention now, and he reinterpreted my story into the artwork, the beautiful artwork that you see in the book.
Okay. So are we expecting a sequel to Koko and Kush Kush?
I couldn't think of that now. I'm very wrapped up in Koko and Kush Kush right now. Actually, my intention writing a story using plants started with my interest in the calabash tree here.
Okay.
And I started with a calabash, but it wasn't coming. So I partnered with the coconut palm, and we went from here.
Okay. You mentioned your grandchildren. Can we expect other children's book?
Perhaps, but I'm thinking more in terms of young adults. I did an exhibition with I think it was the BVI Tourist Board at the museum, the Sugarworks Museum, about 3 years ago. And when we laid out all the books, the local publications, the little half of a table that was devoted to children's publication by local writers alarmed me. I was happy that we had begun to create more publications among us, but it dawned on me that we had not been writing enough for our children. Our children have to identify with their language, the rhythms of their vernacular. They have to identify with their settings, their experiences have to have value. I know when I taught children literature, when they were young, they loved literature. We did fun things, and then over the years, they just pulled away from it. They didn't like it. It had suddenly become too formal or too irrelevant to their lives. And so I thought maybe we should pay more attention to the children. So I started with the little ones, and hopefully I'll do something, for young adults or adolescents.
All right. Doctor, I will allow you to promote your book a bit about launching. Tell us about that. When is it going to take place? Where?
Well, the launch is set for February the 18th. It's a Sunday afternoon. We start up at about 3 p.m. We have been gladly allocated the Queen Elizabeth II Park by the National Parks Trust. We're really grateful to them for that. And the launch will be different in that, because it's a children's book, I thought maybe we should do a little children's party. The children need a party. The children have been under stress over the last 5 months, more than we probably even realize. So I thought I would take the event to do the usual official things that we do at our launch, but focus more on the children, have children activities. And I have some artist friends among us who have agreed to interpreting the book, reinterpreting the book through dance, through song, choral reading, all to generate more interest in the precious activity of reading and appreciating literacy and literature.
All right. Dr. Archer, you are the Secretary General for the BVI's National Commission for UNESCO. Tell us about UNESCO's involvement in this whole process.
Thank you, Mrs. McKelly-Adams, for having me here. So UNESCO is the intellectual arm of the United Nations, which is the United Nations educational, scientific, cultural organization. And essentially our involvement is that as it relates to culture, this event and UNESCO in particular encompasses culture in its entirety through heritage, documentation, through environment. And I must say that this is actually the first time since I've been at UNESCO that we've been able to encompass 2 named days celebrate 2 named days with Dr. Turnbull. We have our World Book and Copyright Day, which is actually a day UNESCO has designated on April the 23rd. And the first one was actually held in 1995. And it's intended to promote reading, publishing of books, in addition to copywriting of books. But the day that we're really going to focus on is the World Poetry Day. Dr. Turnbull mentioned that her book is a poem, and it fits perfectly into the UNESCO Day, World Poetry Day, which is intended to promote reading, writing, the publishing and teaching of poetry. So UNESCO has great involvement, and we feel privileged that we are able to collaborate with Dr. Turnbull in sharing this book. We intend on, and it comes at a perfect time because, as she mentioned, the launch is going to take place on the 18th of February at the Queen Elizabeth Park with a party. Children's party, fantastic time. What UNESCO intends on doing is taking it a step further, leading up to the 2 days, which would be March 21st and April 23rd, respectively, into the schools, where we share the book with each school, ensuring that each book has a copy in their library, if they have a library, or it would be in the possession of the principal once the schools are back in the places that they have been designated. And we intend on sharing the book. We also intend on encouraging students to write, because Dr. Turnbull made mention that the students are under a lot of stress, and they too have stories to tell. They can tell it through story, through book writing. They can also through poetry. And I think that might be an excellent exercise that teachers can have in their lesson plans, that students should share. I'm sure they've done it already, but taking it a step further and say, write a poem about hurricanes Irma or Maria, the positive and the negative, because although we may see this as a negative experience, it's also a positive experience for us. So UNESCO does have quite a bit of involvement as it relates to culture.
Certainly, now I know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, this takes us to the Department of Culture.
Yes.
Mrs. Hart-Smith, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
As the Director of Culture, tell us how significant it is for BVI's culture and heritage when we have local authors making contributions to the libraries and writing.
Okay. Well, as we've said many, many times before, because this is, I've lost count now of how many books we've launched, and we have another one coming up. We'll talk about that in a little while.
That's exciting.
But basically, literary arts, very important for us to maintain and find ways in which to promote it, find ways in which to support our local authors. And the Department of Culture, we have been doing book launch ceremonies for quite some time. And we're excited about it because there's an opportunity for us to share and to pass on to, and we're talking about children this particular time, pass on our heritage, our culture, our traditions to our younger generations, and also to remind us as adults of from whence we've came. So in the literary arts, it's an opportunity to do just that, to have it published, to have us read about ourselves, to have us understand our history, to have us understand our traditions and our heritage, and to pass that on for generations to come. It's a total difference to oral history or oral traditions, because then when we have it orally, unfortunately, when the person passes on that has all this knowledge and all this information, it goes with them. So having them in books in any forms, whether it's a children's book or adolescent's book or a book for adults, is very important for us. And that's why we encourage this. Even if we get a last minute call, we do all we can to get this book out. And one of the things that we also try to do, encourage everyone to have their own personal library of local authors' books, because it's it just can't go to waste. You can have it there and have it for the next generations, so that they can read about themselves, know about their past, know about their history. And so that's where we find it very significant for the literary arts.
Okay. What other initiatives is the Department of Culture involving for the future?
Okay, well, the department is very going to be very active this year. But one of the things I really want to share with you today is that the department will once again reorganizing the local authors book fair, which we originally planned for last year September as World Literacy Day. But because of the expecting passing of Hurricane Irma, we canceled our plans. We had up to 17 local authors that had already committed to be a part of that local authors book fair, and we were very excited. We had a venue set, the date set, and the authors were coming from all over, and we were really looking forward to it. But again, like I said, we had to cancel. So what we're going to do, we're going to have that book fair again, and we're going to try to have it during World Book and Copyright Day in March. Or April, sorry, in April. So we're going to be pushing to have that done because there's some of the authors had called and asked if we're going to have it this year because they had already collected their books and were ready to face the audience or the public to have their books sold. So instead of waiting all the way down to September, we're going to try and have it done in an earlier time. So we're excited about that, and we look forward to the continued commitment of the authors to participate in this event. Yes.
I'm going to redirect my attention to Dr. Turnbull. Tell us about where can we get this book?
Okay, the book is already available online,
Okay.
but it is locally available at JNC Trading, which, by the way, is my principal patron in the publication. That book would not have seen the light of day had it not been for JNC Trading and also Dr. Cassandra Titley O'Neill, who is the owner of Environmental Systems, EVI, as well as the Honorable Dolores Christopher. These three persons were the principal patrons who enabled me to get this book out to the publishers. And so the book is available at JNC Trading, which really caters to children. And it's also available currently at Mellow Moods Cafe, a place where I do some creative activity with some fellow artists from time to time, and they really do promote local books. Those are the two outlets so far, but after the book is launched on the 18th, we will see if we can get some more outlets to sell the books. But they're readily available, and some people have already purchased. The book will be available on the day of the launch, and those who have purchased already could bring them in for autographing on that day.
All right. Remind us again, where is the launching going to take place?
At the Queen Elizabeth Park, Queen Elizabeth II Park.
Time, date?
3 p.m. It's free entry. We have the regular speeches, but we also have presentations, and we also have activities for the children, activities like face painting, and certain preschools might want to do something with the younger ones, and it's going to be hopefully a very fun time while we adults do our book thing and talk and just spend 2 hours together in a very literary but fun-filled atmosphere.
It sounds like the place to be on February 18th.
That's right.
Anything that we have omitted to ask that you want to bring up for the listening audience, Dr. Turnbull? And
I would like to thank, I've already mentioned GNC Trading and some other, I would like to thank the people who have agreed to assist with the launch activity, Unesco, and of course the Department of Culture from the Ministry of Education and Culture. Hearty thanks to them and for their support and encouragement. We want to thank some of the local businesses that have already said yes to helping out. I want to single out Max Restaurant. I want to single out Fort Garden Center and the National Parks Trust for allowing us to use the venue. And thanks to all those who have purchased the book and those who intend to. It's a durable book. Somebody mentioned for a long time after. It's hardcover. It has a dust jacket to protect it, and it's going to last for a long time. The first books I edited sometime in the 80s were 3 little local books, precious books, including Boise and the Gannets. 20 years hence, people can hardly find those books, and where they're found, they're in deplorable condition. Hopefully they will be reissued at some point in time, but one thing I want to encourage us, they're more costly, they take more time, but if you get a good publisher like HNP, my publishers and editors, I think we should start focusing on more durable publications, especially for our children.
I want to thank you, ladies, Mrs. Hodge Smith, Dr. Flax Archer, and of course, our Arthur, Dr. Patricia Turnbull. It has been my pleasure to have you here in this program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I hope you enjoyed our interview today with guest, Director of the Department of Culture, Mrs. Luz Hodge Smith, Secretary General of the BVI's National Commission for UNESCO, Dr. Alison Flax Archer, and of course, our local author, Dr. Patricia Turnbull. For the Department of Information and Public Relations, I have been your GIS host, Berta McKelly Adams. Remember, for all your official government news and latest updates, visit the government website at www.bvi.gov.vg or follow us on Instagram at GISBVI or on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter at BVI Government.